It is indeed my honor and my privilege to welcome all of you this morning. Special acknowledgement and welcome to Labor Secretary Marty Walsh, Deputy Labor Secretary Julie Sue, Governor John Bell Edwards, Congressman Troy Carter, Secretary Louisiana Workforce Commission Ava Dejoie Cates, Mayor Latoya Cantrell, Louisiana Community and Technical College System Supervisor, Ms. Erica McConduit, Saket Sunny, Executive Director, Resilience Force, Mark Davis, CEO, Signal Restoration. A few facts about Delgado Community College. We are the oldest and largest community college in the state of Louisiana. And this year, we are celebrating 100 years. 100 years of providing quality, high quality, in-demand training and education to the residents of Louisiana. The college has an annual enrollment of 31,000 students, 21,000 on the credit side and another 10,000 in our workforce development side of the house. Last year, while navigating a global pandemic and Hurricane Ida, Delgado was ranked the nation's top 50 community college. Our science and mathematics programs were ranked as the best at any community college in the nation. And our business administration associate degree ranked number 2 among two-year colleges nationwide. While as the chancellor, I have an opportunity to share with you those accolades, but I must tell you, it is because of the dedicated team of individuals that I have, faculty and staff. That is the reason why we have continued to rank number 1 in spite of a global pandemic and Hurricane Ida. We understand firsthand the need for a resilient workforce. The campus you are at today, August 29, 2005, was decimated by the destruction of Hurricane Katrina. Some parts of this campus sustained 6 feet of water. When college administrators decided to come back and rebuild, what we didn't know was that we would become the anchor that prompted businesses in this community to rebuild and reopen, the anchor that prompted homeowners to return and rebuild their homes and their lives. The National Guard was stationed and headquartered on this campus and provided a multitude of resources to the community. The energy that was on this campus ignited a renaissance. We developed online classes so that our students who were dispersed throughout the country could continue their education. And for our community, who desperately needed us, we offered do-it-yourself courses. How many of you know about do-it-yourself courses? We offered the first do-it-yourself courses. I'm sorry? We offered the first do-it-yourself courses, allowing our community members to learn how to renovate their homes, to restore sheetrock, flooring, etc. We provided services to entrepreneurs in developing business continuity and recovery plans. You see, Delgado Community College fully understands the need for a resilient workforce and the critical role those workers play in recovery efforts. And we are proud and extremely honored to be the partner chosen to create a world-class curriculum for the climate resilience workforce technician. We see this as an opportunity to be at the forefront of developing educational programs for the jobs of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor, and what an honor it is to be here today. I'm Saket Soni. I'm the Executive Director of Resilience Force, and I'm here today to moderate a discussion about the jobs of the future, a discussion coming from our shared experience of climate change and our shared need for resilience. Earlier today, Secretary Walsh and Deputy Secretary Sue joined us and met with resilience workers who have worked hurricane after hurricane and constitute this rising labor force that is the best shot we have of building American resilience. What we got a close-up view of this morning was the problem, a chaotic, unorganized, and often exploitative industry where workers are falling off the roofs they're fixing, even as residents wait to get home. A workforce that is rooted in disaster, but should be so much stronger. Today we're here to talk about solutions, and when we talk about solutions, we look to points of light. One of those points of light has been New Orleans, and that's because of the partnership we have with the city, and particularly with the mayor of New Orleans, who provided the vision and the leadership to build the first ever Resilience Corps right here in the city. It's my pleasure to introduce Mayor Latoya Cantrell.
Thank you. Well, good morning. Good morning, and thank you all for being here, but more importantly, Secretary, who I know is, I call my brother Mayor, who will always be a mayor. He understands that mayors are on the front lines in leading cities, and I was so pleased when our president appointed him as our secretary. And Madam, thank you so much again for your work and your leadership as our deputy, but I also am very familiar with all that you've done in the state of California, so I look forward to our partnership. Of course, our governor, thank you. Congressman Carter, thank you very much, and all of our other supporters who are here. I did want to acknowledge our councilman, Oliver Thomas, who is here. Thank you so much, sir, with the city of New Orleans, and could not do this work without you. Prior to you being elected back to the New Orleans City Council, you were front and center as we were building out models to get our people working, but thinking creatively in terms of how we respond to disasters in the city of New Orleans, and understanding that we are truly on the front lines of it. Also, looking and knowing from the bottom up on that grassroots level that we really have to meet people where they are. It was a great opportunity for the city of New Orleans, particularly as we were faced in being a hot spot with this COVID-19 very early on, and also looking at how our people, particularly in the hospitality industry, were gravely out of work, but also understanding the needs on the front line as well. We look to partner and leverage our assets and resources with the state of Louisiana, but looking very closely with our Workforce Development Office. Ms. Sune Villavaso, my director, is here. Thank you so much for your work, Ms. Villavaso, on this. We leveraged $600,000 in philanthropic investments, along with $1 million of workforce investment dollars, creating the first resilience force. We knew that when we created it, it would be that a pilot, that here in the city of New Orleans, again, is right for ensuring that we can turn the map around and be more creative of getting our people on the ground, and we were activating them, we're giving them employment opportunities, paying them a great wage, but at the same time, making sure that our residents were met with testing, with training opportunities for workforce development, with getting even community education out there in our community, setting up even multilingual opportunities and resources so that, again, when I say meet people where they are, we absolutely do that. We were able to also do contact tracing, food and hygiene kits to our people. All of these things we were able to activate through the pilot that we set up, and now the opportunity to scale it so that, again, it can meet the needs of our residents here locally, but throughout the United States of America. So I thank you so much, Mr. Secretary, for being here, and I am just going to be asking you for additional leverage so that we can scale this again throughout the United States of America. But in order to do that, we need a resilience training center right here in the city of New Orleans, and we're looking, Councilman, for that to be in New Orleans East. So we know what to do, and we know what partnership looks like. But we also understand that it takes all of us leaning in. And I have a partner in our governor, John Bell Edwards, who understands that you have to put all that it takes, again, to meet our people where they are, to leverage our resources effectively, and to build stronger partnerships. And I can tell you, by having our own director here of labor, Madam, you have been truly a partner with the City of New Orleans and leveraging these resources, but it all begins with the leadership of our governor, Governor John Bell Edwards. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Secretary Walsh and Deputy Secretary Sue, thank you so much for being in Louisiana today in New Orleans. We welcome you. It is truly a privilege and honor to have you here. And this is not the first time you've given your time to Louisiana since becoming secretary, and so we really appreciate that. I do have with me the Secretary of Louisiana Workforce Commission, Ava Dashwa-Cates. She is from right here in New Orleans, and she's been doing a fantastic job under challenging circumstances, and the circumstances are challenging for everybody here for one reason or another, and I think that's why we're here. You know, we've had way more than our fair share of natural disasters over the last couple of years. 4 major hurricanes, all during a pandemic that obviously continues. And unfortunately, the severity and frequency of these weather events is increasing. It's not going to diminish. And so whether you're talking about a pandemic or a hurricane or a flood, these things seem to be accelerating, and having that resilient workforce is necessary so that there's an equitable opportunity for jobs and careers, so that we can do the work that is necessary, but that we can actually lift people up. As the mayor likes to say, you know, meet them where they are, but lift them up with really good opportunity. I think that's very important. And I know that you probably saw some blue roofs here in this area when you flew in yesterday, but I know this morning when you went to St. John the Baptist Parish, you could see just how much work remains to be done as we recover from Hurricane Ida. So when you look at the work that Resilience Force is doing to rethink the way that we respond to disasters and, again, make that more equitable, I don't think there's any place in the country that can benefit from this more than Louisiana, and particularly the people of Louisiana, our families and our communities. That's why I'm excited to be here today and to join in this discussion. And I want to thank the mayor for her early work to create this pilot to demonstrate that it can work, and now this convening so that we can figure out how we scale it, not just here in Louisiana, but around the country. And Mr. Secretary, I want to pledge to you my commitment to work with you on these and many, many other issues as we move forward. So again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Governor, thank you for your leadership during successive recoveries. Thank you for your spirit, and thanks to all of you for all of the work you all do. Each time disaster hits, to accelerate recovery, but also to make them equitable. We are very lucky that President Biden has an extraordinary team. We are lucky that Secretary Walsh is President Biden's labor secretary, a once-in-a-generation labor secretary. And the best example of that extraordinary team that you both have, I think, is Deputy Secretary Sue. She is an extraordinary leader. She's an incredible thinker and doer. And our workers, our members, and labor organizers and advocates like myself take extraordinary inspiration from the work you've led in California. So much of what we're sitting and thinking about here is inspired by and also takes instruction from the work you did, Deputy Secretary, in California. So it's my pleasure to welcome you to this discussion.
Saket, thank you. Thank you all so very much. It is really an honor to be here with Secretary Walsh to really honor the resilience workers who, as has already been said by the mayor and the governor, are the people whose hands both clean up after disaster, they walk into danger while the rest of us are walking away from it, and they actually rebuild our cities, our states, our country, in the wake of what the governor said, is the growing threat of all kinds of natural disasters, from the ones the governor mentioned to the ones in my home state of California, wildfires, earthquakes, and the like. There is absolutely no reason why these jobs are bad jobs. There's no inevitability to these jobs being low-paid, insecure, exploitative, and dangerous. And what we are so glad to be here to celebrate is the fact that New Orleans, Louisiana, has really taken the lead in demonstrating that it's not inevitable, that there are choices that we can make to change that. And the strength of the workers who are doing that, we honor the Resilience Force. The business leaders who are also demonstrating, we can't have good jobs if you don't have employers who are willing to demand good jobs throughout their supply chain. And you can't do all of this without the partnerships that we see here around the table. So the president and the vice president believe deeply that we cannot recover as a nation, and we cannot build an economy without really prioritizing the needs and the livelihoods of workers. And that is why the president selected Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh, who has spent his life fighting for and honoring working people. It's from his family, it's from his gut, it's from his immigrant background, it's from his career, and it is from his time as mayor. What he tells us every day and is that our mission is to empower workers morning, noon, and night. And to do that in a way that is collaborative, to do that in a way that's creative, to do that in a way that's impactful on the ground. And so it is really a privilege for me to get to see that up close every single day. And so I think one of the things that we are really trying to reimagine at the Department of Labor is how we invest our workforce dollars into rebuilding America, right? As the president and the vice president talk about infrastructure, we say at the Department of Labor that workforce development is the roads and bridges that connect people to the good jobs they need and connect employers to the people that they need. And so building those roads and bridges, making them strong, is about working together with all of you on that. And that's why the secretary and I are here, and we're really proud to be here. And I could just not be more grateful to share with all of you that in the country we have the best labor secretary imaginable for the crises and demands of our times, and that is Labor Secretary Marty Walsh.
I agree.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Deputy. Socket gave me 4 minutes, so I'm not going to talk too much about everyone here, but I want to thank you, Gov, for having us here today. Congressman, thank you as well. Chancellor, thank you very much as well. School's beautiful. I wanted to put my mask on to make sure I'm you know, wearing the swag. Madam Mayor, I've known the mayor since she got elected mayor of the city. We have had a long friendship and relationship, and just thank you for the work that you're doing and really spearheading while we're sitting at this table today. So thank you for that. Counselor, it's great to have you here as well. You know, treat the mayor good, that's all I'm going to say, ask you. You know, I'm a member of Resilience Force now. I got my card in my pocket, so it's good to see my people. Yeah. All right? Good to see my people. And I want to thank everyone for being here today. Thank you, everybody, and we'll get into it in a minute. You know, most importantly, the most important people in this room today, quite honestly, are the resilient workers. And I've seen them now at 2 different events, some people, and we've seen a bunch of people all throughout the day, and I just want to say thank you for the amazing work that you've done over the last 2 years in a row dealing with storms here, but beyond that, one gentleman who's sitting there with the green mask has 9 storms under his belt, and quite honestly, you know, you think about that, and the importance of respecting our workers is so important. You know, essential workers and essential workforce, I know we saw it during the pandemic. We heard during the pandemic the celebration of essential workers, you know, our grocery store workers and our workers that delivered food and all of that. But quite honestly, our essential workers have been the backbone of our country for a long time, from the beginning of this country. And it's important for us that we remember that and respect the essential workers. And I know that the folks at this table do, and what we're having a dialogue today is that we can take this across the country and talk about the respect that we have to have for essential workers. You know, President Biden, when President Biden got elected president and Vice President Harris got elected vice president, President Biden talked about building back better. And what he meant by that wasn't coming back from a pandemic. He was talking about how do we create pathways into the middle class? How do we create those opportunities to take care of people? How do we make sure we work as an administration to continue to move forward? And the first thing the president did when he became the president was file the American Rescue Plan. And that American Rescue Plan allowed Americans and us, all of us, regardless of status, the opportunity to get vaccinated, the opportunity to get PPE, the opportunity to rebuild America and help America moving forward. And that was an important step forward. And then the president filed another bill. It started out as the American Jobs Plan. It turned out to be the infrastructure bill, Biden's infrastructure plan, law. And that money's an investment in over $1 trillion into our communities that's going to help rebuild our roads and our bridges. Now, New Orleans and Louisiana is no stranger to that, and the governor and the mayor certainly know that, and the congressmen know that, because it's not just about the infrastructure bill, it's about helping rebuild a more resilient city in so many different ways. And we're going to continue to push to make sure that, and I was asked that question earlier today, about what's going to be in that bill. We're going to make sure that in that bill, in that law, I should say, is resiliency, not just from the standpoint of building a bridge that's strong, but making sure that the workers that are working on those projects are covered, making sure people on those projects earn a good living wage, and a good wage to be able to raise their family on. And we're going to continue to move forward there. You know, the president, when he laid out his plan early in the year to get our economy going, there's been a lot of talk about it. Nearly 6.7 million jobs were created in 1 year. That's the largest number in the history of our country. 3.9% unemployment rate. But in 1 year, we dropped it by 3 points. But what's not captured in those figures are people who are working in the shadows, folks of our essential workers, folks in our resilient force. And we need to make sure that we continue to raise you up and raise up the communities all across this country to make sure that people are being treated fairly. And that's what we're doing. I'm fortunate to have a great partner in Deputy Secretary Sue, because we're working at the Department of Labor on a whole bunch of different things. We have folks here from the Department of Labor today, from Wage and Hour and from OSHA. I want to thank them for being here today. They're doing some amazing work here, and we're going to have a meeting after this to talk about how do we strengthen that office there, because we heard some concerns today. We want to make sure that we're working to support our officers to do all the work we're supposed to be doing. We're doing that. We also launched something that's called the Good Job Initiative inside the Department of Labor. And the Good Job Initiative is working across sectors to make sure that there's living wages, making sure that we have health benefits, making sure that we have that these benefits and these jobs are accessible to the African American community and the Latino community in America. That we can't make investments like we have in the past and leave communities behind. There's a young man down the back. I saw him, and he was talking about the opportunity to get a good job and workforce to raise a family. I'm looking right at him right now. Like, those are the stories that, as I said today, we're going to remember and take back with us. What I'm saying today is not words. What I'm saying today is the reality of the situation that we are going to strengthen our job training. Deputy Secretary Sue talked about that. We're going to look at our workforce development. We're going to look and see what the mayor's talking about when the mayor says we need an office of resiliency in the city, in the East New Orleans, making sure that we're supporting, being partners to make sure we're moving the mission of that office forward. So that it's just not a one and up and done office is an office there. How do we make sure it's long-standing? Because unfortunately, this area, this community, all across America, we're not going to see the end of hurricanes. We're not going to see the end of rising sea level rise. We're not going to see that. So we need to continue to build on that. So I'm gonna stop talking for a minute, but I just have to commend. I have a couple notes here I have to do. I want to commend Resilient Force for the amazing work that you've done and for the opportunity today to allow us to share some part of this day with you. When I say us, Julie, myself, and our team at Department of Labor. And I also want to give a shout out to Mark Davis, who has done some amazing work as well. And I had a chance to meet Mark on the back, but I heard Socket talk about Mark and the relationship and how it came about. And it's all about relationships. It's about how do we move forward. And the last thing I'll say, and I have an opportunity to do this, when I talk about what the president filed, whether it's the infrastructure law, whether it's the Build Back Better that we're still working on, whether it's immigration reform, whether it's the ability to join a union, whether it's the ability to get the American Rescue Plan done, you need champions and advocates in the United States Congress to do that. And Congressman Troy Carter is one of those people. He's one of those people that the president relies upon. He's one of those people that the vice president relies upon, that his community that he represents relies upon. And I can tell you firsthand from the Department of Labor, somebody I rely upon. And why do I say that? Because you have doers and you have thinkers. And there's nothing wrong with thinking, but sometimes you need doing. And when you're a former mayor and you're a Secretary of Labor, you need somebody who's going to go to bat for you in the United States Congress floor if you need something done. This man has done it for me. I'd like to introduce to you my friend, your Congressman, Congressman Carter.
Mr. Secretary, thank you very much. Deputy Secretary Chu, thank you very much for being here and for your team for recognizing the importance of this great institution and the great people of Louisiana. We're fortunate to have a dynamic mayor that has been a full partner with us. So blessed to have worked closely as a former member of the legislature, most recently as a member of the Senate, where I served as chairman of Labor and Industrial Relations. So to work very closely with our illustrious Secretary, Secretary Ava Dejoie Cates, in her incredible effort to fight for the Louisiana worker, which is our workers, the backbone of our communities, to make sure that we fight for those things that in 2022 we shouldn't still have to fight for, like a living wage, true living wage, equal pay for women, making sure that we have a workforce that's well trained, that's well prepared. And I know the combination between the United States Secretary of Labor and the Secretary of Labor for the state of Louisiana and this incredible institution of Delgado, and with the efforts that we put in from Mark and Sackett and others who are private sector people who step up and say we want to be a part of the solution, demonstrates where we can go. The excitement of what has happened with the Biden-Harris administration, who in his first year has done more than many have done in several terms. The press doesn't always record that. That doesn't always get told as clearly as it should be. From the ARP to the BIF to the BBB, and I can go on all kind of alphabets for you. But the reality is it boils down to real money, for real training, for real opportunities, for real jobs for the people of America. And those are the stories that we should always tell. When people want to pivot to talk about all that's wrong, remind them of all the good stuff that's happening federally, locally, and at the state level. Fighting for the people, fighting for the workers, making sure that our resilient workers are given the opportunity for fair treatment, fair wages. And we know that in the immediate aftermath of these natural disasters, oftentimes we see people in truckloads that aren't from the particular locale that was impacted drive away with resources. While we know that we have workers right here, small and disadvantaged businesses right here in our community that should be on the first level of given an opportunity. Several months ago, immediately after Ida, I wrote a letter to Secretary of FEMA asking that we make sure that when given the opportunity for our local business people to partake in the economic opportunities of rebuilding our communities, that we don't overlook the small and disadvantaged businesses. They're the backbone of our community, and our resilient workers deserve the best. I'm very proud to be a part of the Climate Resilient Task Force Act, Workforce Act. That is something that is going to be huge in providing resources and additional attention from the federal government standpoint. So, Mr. Secretary, thank you so very much for being here. We appreciate your time and attention to Louisiana and, again, Dr. Stive at this incredible learning institution. Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership, Congressman Carter, and for the fight you're fighting for us in Washington. Thank you so much. You know, Congressman Carter talked about jobs and the possibility of good jobs. And what we've seen really for the last 15 years since Katrina is a pattern in the growing sector of disaster restoration. And that pattern doesn't tend towards good jobs. In the last 15 years, disasters have become more frequent and more destructive. Each year, they cause billions of dollars of property damage. Last year, there were $20 billion disasters. Disasters causing $1 billion or more of property damage. And that's just the damage we know how to count. That's just insured damage. That's not the uninsured damage, and it's not the cost on jobs. It's not what happens when when opportunities are washed away. And so what's happened in the last decade and a half is that a whole resilience economy has grown, and inside of that economy, people are working, people like the ones who are gathered here today. And what we've seen in those last 15 years is that largely immigrant workers are locked into bad jobs, are largely exploited, while African American workers are just locked out altogether. Immigrants are exploited in bad jobs, and for the most part, African American workers can't even get their way into a job. And so that's what we're trying to fix. And so we're here today because the disaster restoration industry doesn't have to be like that. As Deputy Secretary Sue said, nothing is inevitable. The disaster restoration industry can be a source of job quality. We can turn hundreds of thousands of bad jobs into good ones. It can be a source of job access. We can create career ladders for people who want futures in this industry. And it can be an engine for job creation. We can add jobs to the economy by quantifying and training. And that's why the mayor's leadership in providing New Orleans as the first place for a resilience workforce development center is an extraordinary gift. It's a pathway into good jobs in this resilience economy. But we can't do any of it without the private sector, without employers, without the partners. Many of us know that the problem often is we do trainings and then there's no job at the other side of that training. That's a familiar problem. So to solve that problem, we've got Mark Davis. Mark is the CEO of Signal Restoration and a whole portfolio of disaster restoration companies. He is a pioneer in this industry. He's a leader of consolidation and growth in the industry. He's known throughout North America as one of the first leaders to begin the growth of this business. He did it as a young man. He sold what became the largest company in this space. And then he and his collaborator, Frank Torre, who's co-CEO, now preside over a portfolio of restoration companies that have 350 offices around the country and do $500 million of business a year. And we're here today for a breakthrough agreement between Resilience Force and Mark Davis, a breakthrough agreement which would, for the first time, set standards and raise the floor in this industry. We're here for that breakthrough agreement, and we're also here, though, for a breakthrough conversation, because this will require all the stakeholders around the table. We need visionary mayors who offer up their cities as points of light. We need the Delgado Community College to host and be the training partner. We need all the levels of government that are gathered here today, and we need the private sector. So let me turn it over to you, Mark, and my question for you would be, why are you here? We know how your being here helps us, and how does it help the industry?
Well, thank you, Saket. And we're honored to be here. It's a true privilege. I say we, is that I've got my business partners here, Frank Torrey and Ben Casey and Barron, but we're not here representing our companies. We are here representing the insurance restoration industry and the property restoration industry in general. And so, to answer your question is, we ended up meeting, as you know, I met Saket because we were here in Louisiana restoring schools and private businesses, public sector buildings after Laura, and we needed workers. In fact, we ended up employing over 3,000 after Hurricane Laura. And where did we go? We didn't have, I didn't know, we didn't have Resilience Force, so we do what the industry does. And having been in the industry for 26 years, this is, my first catastrophe was literally in 1996, Hurricane Fran in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I've done every one since then. So I've been in Louisiana. I've done hundreds of millions of dollars of restoration work here over the last couple of decades. But what the industry does, since we don't have a trained resilience force today to call on, is that we rely on temporary labor services that are then all going after the same pool of workers. And so the typical restoration company, we're not considering ourselves typical because we're taking this leading edge. But I want you to know, we're going to make it easy for our fellow colleague restoration companies to join us in this. Because this is just a move, this is not some sort of a one-time press conference and yes, let's celebrate what you, Mayor, are doing, what's amazing with the plan here in New Orleans. This is a movement, and this movement, we're so happy to be partnering with you, with all of Resilience Force, okay, with you, Secretary Walsh and Deputy Secretary Sue, because we can help Louisiana with this, but it's way bigger than Louisiana. And think about what we did to get those 3,000 people. We had to go to temporary labor sources that say they exhausted all of the trained workers in Louisiana and had to go then to other migrant workers that were coming from Florida and from sometimes 6 states away, okay, that were promised certain things by these labor providers, and many of those promises were broken. As it turns out, we at Signal Restoration and at U.S. Roofing, we had hired these and engaged these temporary labor companies to provide us the labor we needed to restore the schools and other things here in Louisiana. And yet, we have our standards, and then we discovered through Socket and Resilience Force that our standards were not being honored down the line to subcontractors and subs of subcontractors. The minute we became aware that that was the case, and I mean the exact minute, we not only remedied that situation, of course, that's the right thing, but that's how our partnership was the infancy, the really spark of our partnership, because as Socket and I got to know each other, the resolution was quick. That's easy. Let's do the right thing. It was, how do we actually take this and work on a solution for not just Louisiana, but for the whole country to develop an American resilience force. The industry will benefit. So when I say we're sitting here as the industry, we are not alone. We know already of several other leading restoration companies that are going to join us in this movement. And this movement to really, it's about workplace standards. And this is not just about a fair minimum wage. That's very important. That's top of the list. And that's some minimum that we're agreeing to, and this is joint and several. So this isn't just us as a company. Anyone that's affiliated with us going forward, these are the standards. They will sign on to them as well, or they won't do work with us, period. Is that we know that will help elevate, but also just from the standpoint of when you ask the question, well, gee, when these workers, do they deserve a fair wage? Of course. Should there also, because a lot of them are coming here out of market, because even though we want to, believe me, use those local markets first, everyone wants that because you save on travel and all that sort of thing. But all of these regional or national disasters require enhancement from other parts of the country because there's just so much work to be done in such a short period of time that there isn't a single state that has enough workers. And even as we hear Louisiana start with this and then begin to plan, we actually have a strong, major need and desire for trained resilience force workers where we can provide not just the fair wage and not just the right lodging, but the right overtime and the right benefits. And we should be feeding them. And we should provide training for them. And the training should not just be for one level. It should be labor classifications that actually have a career path where they can say, if I start here as a certified restoration tech, then I can do additional training to then become a supervisor. And then I can become a supervisor. And then from a supervisor, I can also then become a project manager. There is a true career path. And I will tell you, having been in the restoration space as an employer for the last 26 years, the greatest challenge we find is finding skilled workers in that time of need when supply and demand are here before a storm, but there's still plenty of work non-storm. You mentioned those 20 storms of over $1 billion. That's just the ones that were over $1 billion. The day-to-day business of disaster recovery is a huge multi-$100 billion annual business. And so these workers don't just have to be working on hurricanes. In their local markets, there is day-to-day business that this training can actually provide jobs that help the community, but that they should feel proud about when they go home, that they're putting food on the table, they're getting a fair wage, they're being treated properly. So we at Signal and at U.S. Roofing Systems are not just investing in words, we're doing this, but we're underwriting this process. We're making a long-term financial commitment, and it's one that we couldn't feel better about. And although we believe, of course, we're part of the industry, this is about investing in how our industry will do better by helping support the training of unskilled and then developing skilled workers and a career path for them. And so thank you again, all of you, for being here. This is really just the beginning. The tailwinds you can provide, Secretary Walsh, And Deputy Secretary Sue, the tailwinds you can provide us to help scale this to the other markets is incredible. And we will not let you down. We literally are passionate about this. The long-term commitment is easy, and we're honored and privileged to be a part of it. And what we believe as pioneers in leading it, very, very excited about coast to coast, all these states, of actually getting restoration companies to join this movement, okay? And we believe that the good actors will be rewarded at some point in time for that. It's not the reason to do it. It's not why we did it. But it's also one of those where is that, like we said before, climate change is not a one and done. It's here. It's in front of us. We're behind, actually. We're behind. And so when we think about ways to, how could we better be prepared for what else Mother Nature has in store for us due to our own doing through the environment, is that this is a very important movement for us. And so again, just thank you all, and we couldn't be more excited to be a part of the solution. Thank you.
I think it's pretty clear from hearing that why it's a natural partnership. I'll just say, I've also just found Mark and his team to be leading a company with a lot of integrity. And I'm just really thrilled. And thank you, Mark, for your partnership, for your leadership. I'll just say, Mark is very modest, but it takes a lot of risk in an industry to be the first to come out and partner with workers and set standards. So I really would just like one more round of applause for the agreement that Mark is signing today. We couldn't do any of this, as I said before, without a partner and host mayor. And in Mayor Cantrell, we've had an extraordinary champion, an extraordinary partner. And I want to commend not just you, Mayor, but your whole team. You have just an extraordinary team, and what a pleasure, what a joy it's been. I mean, we've certainly encountered thorny problems together, but God, I've never seen a team roll up their sleeves and dive in, ready to solve all those problems, right? And it's just been incredible. So we'd love to just hear from you. Why are you invested in this long-term, Mayor? How does this fit into New Orleans' pathway?
Well, thank you so much for recognizing my team, and I did give a shout out to my director of workforce, but I did not as it relates to Josh Cox, who is over strategic initiatives. So he really took the lead on this and worked with me day in and day out to make this a reality for our city, because the need was great. You ask about why the city of New Orleans. Well, first of all, we are a city that has officially been a model for post-disaster recovery. One that this model is being taught at the Kennedy School of Government right now, and it was off of the work of a neighborhood, which is Broadmoor in our community. But I would have to say, over the past 3.5 years, I've had to sign over 15 emergency declarations. And so this city is no stranger to disasters, as we've said. We know that we're on the front lines of climate change as well. But our people have demonstrated time and time again how they can adhere to the shock waves where they don't break. We might bend, but we don't break. And that's what resilience is all about. When I also look at the need for improved growth sectors in terms of wage and training and the wage gap that exists here, the equity gaps that we have identified. Also, as we ensure that we work with our people who are returning or reentering society. So when we look at this and look at also our main sector here has been hospitality for so long, but this is our opportunity to pivot from that. So I find the city of New Orleans is ripe for not only starting this pilot, but being the city, again, for that resilience training center, Mr. Secretary. And so I also think about, how, of course, with training and working with, thank you so much, Madam Chancellor, for what Delgado has meant and what you mean to the city of New Orleans in providing our residents with effective training to get on those career pathways that they truly do deserve. But more importantly, when I think about how even the city, and Mark, you kind of mentioned this, when the city of New Orleans had to respond to Hurricane Laura that hit our people in Lake Charles, well, it was our city who housed over 15,000 residents at the time. And we provided them with the resources and tools that they needed for almost 1 year. And so the city, again, has demonstrated that, one, we can train our people to respond to our own disasters here, but also to respond to other disasters that may hit in our state, in our region, but of course throughout the country. And so I'm committed to this work. We have demonstrated that it changes lives, and we have the people to show it, and who are so dedicated. And they've seen how their skills, even in hospitality, are transferable. And that's what we're wanting to do with our people here. And we've done that throughout this pandemic. And this is just the right time with the right leadership, both at the federal level, at the state level, and at the local level. And of course, with partners from the business community and our education partners to get this done. So why the city of New Orleans? What I'm asking and saying is, why not?
Thank you, Mayor. We are so looking forward to building the first ever Resilience Workforce Training Center right here in the East. Thank you,
Yes,
Mayor.
thank you.
You know, one of the things that happens after disasters is that cameras come and lots of images are taken of destruction, buildings torn apart, roofs blown away, roads blocked. By the time the workers get there and start their work, the cameras usually have left. And the stories and lives of the workers in that rebuilding are often invisible. That ended today with the first ever recognition of this workforce by a Secretary of Labor. We are so grateful. And to share a worker perspective, we've got my friend and a very, very skilled, extraordinary resilience worker, Beatriz Gonzalez.
Buenas tardes, creo.
Good evening, everyone.
Mi nombre es Beatriz González, represento, o tengo el honor en este momento de representar a todos mis compañeros en este momento.
My name is Beatriz González, and I have the honor to represent all my partners, my co-workers here.
En estos momentos soy la voz de todos ellos.
This moment, I'm the voice of all of them.
Y quisiera decirles que para nosotros es un honor hacer ese trabajo, tomar esos retos.
For us, you know, I want to tell you that for us, is to take this risk, it's an honor, you know.
Que no todas las personas toman los retos y los riesgos que nosotros tomamos al hacer estos trabajos de reconstrucción después de los desastres naturales.
Not many workers take the risk and the challenge to rebuild after hurricanes and natural disasters.
Nos sentimos complacidos y tenemos satisfacción de restaurar todos los desastres que quedan después de todas las tormentas y huracanes y todos los factores que influyen en este cambio climático.
I'm very satisfied when I see, you know, that we finish our job and we restore the places that was hit by a disaster.
Hay un pero de que nos sentimos felices de hacer el trabajo, pero tenemos problemas al realizar estos trabajos.
Every time there is a bad, you know, there is not the best. There are problems in the places when we realize this type of work.
Hemos hablado ya bastante de lo que es el robo de salario, que no es una novedad para ninguno de los que estamos ahorita aquí.
We talk with the Secretary of Labor about the waste theft. That is not something that he ignored.
Pero también quiero tocar un factor muy importante, que es nuestra seguridad de la salud o la seguridad laboral en este caso.
But I want to touch a different point right now. This is the safety and our health in these places, no? The disaster places.
Cuando nosotros entramos a cualquier zona de desastre, nos exponemos a muchos riesgos presentes en esa zona.
When we enter in a disaster zone, we take a lot of risk, you know, when we are arriving there.
Nosotros estamos dispuestos a asumirlo, pero con que nos brinden la seguridad correspondiente a cada área que nos exponemos de peligro.
We are assuming very bravely to go in and to fix the problem, but you know, we need the support to create ways to don't be, you know, alone on this issue.
Creo que la salud es tan importante como el robo de salario.
Our health is more important or the same importance that the way theft.
Para culminar, quisiera decir también que este nuevo convenio es muy importante para todos nosotros porque es un comienzo a una mejor calidad laboral para los trabajadores resilientes.
To end, I want to tell that this accord, this agreement that we are signing today, is the beginning of a better life for all of us as a resilient workers.
Le damos las gracias a todos los que participan para mejorar nuestras condiciones laborales. Muchas
I want
gracias.
to thank all of you that are participating in this, you know, because we're going to do better with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Belis. We have time for just one question back to you, Secretary Walsh and Deputy Secretary Sue. You know, this is about to be the first agreement between a private sector actor in this space and the workforce. You've got a set of stakeholders here. Where do you think we can go with this? What is the opportunity? And just to say, our pitch to all of you is let's roll up our sleeves and build America's resilience force. Let's turn these into the good jobs we want. That's our North Star, but you know, you're the architects of this, and where do you think we can go with this, Secretary?
Well, first of all, thank you for having us today. Bill, at least thank you for your story and your testimony today. That's important. And Mark, thank you for your willingness to partner here today. I think it's really important that you know, mayors and governors and congresspeople and city councilors, we're constantly working to create opportunities and pathways in our communities every day. But having corporate America at the table is so key to this. Because corporate America are the contractors and the owners, and you do this work. And so I think, thank you for that. I think it's really important. I think what we're talking about today can be taken across the country when you think about where we are as a country. And I mentioned this earlier today off camera when I was at the church, but when you think about our country and you think about where we are as a country in our workforce, I gave the number of 6.7 million jobs that were created under the Biden administration last year, which is the record number for any administration in the history of our country. I talked about the low unemployment rate in our country, 3.9%, which was almost pre-pandemic time. But we have an opportunity at this moment in time to enhance, and the press might ask me this question today, and they're all over me the last few months, what are we going to do about the job shortage in America? And this is an opportunity for to plug that gap, job shortage in America. We have workers that are coming to this country willing to go to work hard, take some of the worst jobs out there. You know, when you think about jobs in America, disaster relief jobs are not necessarily at the top of the list because of the challenges that you have to face and the devastation that you have to see when you go into a community, whether it's mold or asbestos or everything, sewage overflow, all the other things that happen. So I think we have a real opportunity right now in our country to take this momentum that's happening right here in New Orleans today and taking it right across America. And what we need is willing partners, and the governor, I know, is reaching out to governors across the country. I know the mayor certainly is not shy, and she's taking it to mayors across the country. The congressman is talking to his colleagues in the United States Congress. I'd ask Mark to talk to your colleagues on the business level to say, let's do this. And then worker organizing opportunities. Talk to worker organizing groups. This is an opportunity for us at this moment in time to do something special. And so where do I see this going? I see this going, this can become a movement for two reasons. One is because America needs it, and communities that have been hit by natural disasters and other challenges need it. And number two, we have a willing workforce that oftentimes has been taken advantage of, but are willing to go to work hard every day. There are people sitting in this room today that have worked on projects and not gotten paid. Yet, when the phone rings to go to another state, they'll jump on a plane or in a cab, or not a cab, but a train or a drive to that other state. So you see the resilience in that. So I think that's our opportunity in front of us today. And I think the last thing I'll say is that we have the right people at the table to have these conversations. I want to throw community college in from there. We also have a unique opportunity, not just here at Delgado, but all across America, with opportunities for training, job training, workforce development training, partnering with apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeship programs, and all the other things, using our community college network in our country. I've traveled all across this country now since I've been in this role as Secretary of Labor, and before that as Mayor of Boston, and before that as a state representative. I had the building trades. And community colleges can be the constant, because you're in a community, you have the ability to do so many amazing things here. So we need to really take our community college partnerships across this country and strengthen those. And I know it's happening right here, but use this model right here and take that across the country. So thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Walsh. Madam Deputy Secretary, what are your thoughts on where this can go, what can be built on what we've started here today?
Well, I will obviously just echo everything that the Secretary said. I think that what he's highlighted and what we've heard today is there are at least 5 ways that this kind of partnership fulfills this administration's commitment to America. The first is everything should be premised on good quality jobs. There's no reason why we can't make every job in America a good job, where people go to work, they feel safe, they get what they're owed, and they go home and they can live a secure life. It's what our Secretary says all the time, and the President says all the time. You know, we want to create more pathways to the middle class and to that kind of economic security. The second is the notion of partnerships, right? This administration is really committed to the idea that we can't do anything alone, and the kinds of partnership that you represent, including with the Chancellor of the community colleges, including between private sector and with workers at the center of it, is so key to the well-being of America. The third is local solutions, right? I mean, it's something that you also hear the President and the Secretary talk about this all the time, that the best solutions are growing out of communities that are impacted directly by things. You know, there are not so many like one-size-fits-all solutions for the country, but there are really, really positive innovations at the local level that hold lessons for the rest of the country, and this is a really good example of that. The fourth is, of course, our commitment to climate, right? And this is a really good example of how, you know, we don't just want to be responding to disasters. We want to create our communities to be strong enough to withstand, and then make decisions that are going to help prevent and minimize the occurrences. And the fifth is really equity, right? This president came out on his very first day with an executive order committed to equity in this country. I will tell you from working side by side with this secretary that I don't think there is, I mean, it's hard to imagine somebody who is more committed to the idea that we cannot move forward as a country if we do not include everybody in that move. And what does it mean to move forward with everybody? It means to look at who's most vulnerable, who's been left out, even in times of prosperity. And this kind of partnership, this kind of this high road plan is about making sure that people of color are getting the good jobs that get created, and the jobs that they are doing become better jobs, and that is really key to you know, just a real commitment to making sure that nobody gets left behind. And so that real deliberate commitment to racial equity and combating systemic racism that has resulted in a lot of the worst jobs in the country being done by people of color is directly addressed here too, and those are all priorities of this administration, and we are very excited to see it happening.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary Sue. And now for the moment we've been waiting for, I'd like to invite our delegation of resilience workers to come up and stand behind us as we sign an agreement. And the people coming up here are resilience workers who have worked hurricane after hurricane. There are probably 5 dozen hurricanes between the group you see. The agreement will be co-signed by CEO Mark Davis, Bailise Gonzalez, and myself. And so, Mark, do you commit here today to signing the first ever industry-wide Good Jobs High Road partnership between the industry doing disaster restoration and the workers.
It's our honor to be the first of what will be many, many companies that we're going to recruit, Secretary and Deputy Secretary and Governor. We're going to recruit more and more restoration companies to support us in what will be helping to assist in building the great American Resilience Force. Thank you.
On the proactive side, great infrastructure will be tied into resilience force as well.
And that's yours. And we can hold that up. Thank you all, and Secretary Walsh, it would be our honor if you were to give us the closing thoughts for the day.
Just, first of all, thank you all for being here today. This is a potentially exciting day, and I'll use the word potentially because we have to build on this momentum here today. And a lot of people in this room started a movement in this country, and this movement will go right across the country. And at the end of the day, as I said to the President on Friday when I had a chance to talk to him about the Worker Empowerment Task Force, I said a lot of people will be able to go to bed tonight, put their heads in the pillows, may not see the impacts of what you've done today, but we'll see the impacts. A lot of people in this country will be able to go to bed tonight, put their head on the pillow, and realize the impact of that document and this partnership and what that will mean for workers, resilient workers, more particularly, for the future is amazing. So thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Steib, for hosting us here today. Thank you, Mayor Cantrell, for being our leader here in New Orleans. Thank you to all of you. That closes our program here today. I believe the Secretary and Deputy Secretary will be speaking to press. I want to thank you all for joining us, and please know that we're here to help you rebuild as we go forward.